Hey, book friends, welcome back to Books I Read. I'm Sheila, and I'm so glad you're here. We're going to do some bookish things here. Obviously, it's a book channel. This is our buddy read. Woo! This is section 3 and section 4, and or as you read the title, you know this is the Arraignment, and you know this is, what is it called? Footsteps in Cantaloupe. Are you ready? Alright, let me put a disclaimer here because I had to add a disclaimer to the other two videos. This is a book by Stephen King that is not for children. There are things in this book that children should not be reading. So, yeah, preferably an older audience. Thank you so much. Alright, so you guys ready to get on with it? I am. Do you have your tea? I do. It's very hot, as you can see. And my lovely pumpkin mug. And I have my lovely husband.
Hello.
So he will interject like he's been, interject, yeah, that's what I want to say, right, honey?
Uh-huh.
As he's been doing.
I will interact and interject. How's
there
that?
you go. As he sees fit, whatever. It's okay, it's fine. If it upsets you, I'm sorry, but it's the way we're going to do it. Alright, so let's get on with this. The Arraignment, July 16th. So, this section starts off with them taking Terry to the courthouse. And they ask Terry if he would like a bulletproof vest. And he says no. And they're like, okay, fine. Risk getting shot. With skin off my nose.
Well, they're like, yeah, save us some money. That way we
Yeah.
that way we don't have to feed you and all that stuff.
Right. And Bill Samuels, I thought it was political at first because Bill Samuels has got this upcoming election, but I'm not sure. As I read the section further, I'm not sure if that's the case. So I don't know. What do you think, babe?
No, I don't think it's at all
You don't
anything
think so?
political. No.
All right. So maybe that was far-fetched. Basically, as they're trying to get Terry into this courthouse, you know, his wife's crying and telling him she loves him, and you know, Ralph is like, he just couldn't hold back any longer, and he's like, but I do know. And he's talking about DNA and how the sample they took from the backs of the legs of the boy that was murdered, obviously, matches the cheek swabs from Terry. And of course, DNA doesn't lie, right?
So they say.
So they say. Alright, so then we start moving forward through this arraignment, still trying to get him in there, and there's this crowd of reporters and a bunch of flipping people, and you know, there's just this crowd. There's just this crazy
Your basic
crowd.
hate crowd.
Right? And then all of a sudden, Ralph notices someone with a gun, and that someone is Ollie Peterson, which is Frankie Peterson's brother. And of course, Ollie shoots, and the first one just grazes.
Yeah, it just grazed his head, right?
Terry's ear. I forget what happens to the second one. I think it hits the Camaro or the car or something like that. And of course, the detectives are scrambling at this point, and the third shot goes off on Ollie's gun, and it hits Terry. But in the meantime, Ralph is trying to shoot back, and he hits a camera guy.
Yeah, he hit the camera guy's camera.
Yeah, and it hit him in the face or the eye or something like that. I don't know exactly how that all happened, but that was bad. But Ralph shoots and kills Ollie, and Ollie shoots and kills Terry. What I found was interesting is, I mean, obviously the crowd wanted Terry to die anyway because they believed he was guilty, you know, screaming all the negative things and all of that jazz. Alright, so anyway, so now Terry is laying on the ground here on the sidewalk, and Ralph looks at Terry pretty much and says, Terry, you're gonna die. Do you understand me? He got you, and he got you good. You're gonna die. And he's basically telling Terry, hey,
If you did it, Now's your time to say something about it.
Right. And Terry says, I didn't. He's like, I didn't. So tell me, Ralph, how you going to clear yours? You know, his conscience. So, and then, of course, Ralph looks over at Marcy and says that her husband has passed. And, of course, Sheriff Doolin is just like, yeah, should have been wearing the best.
Yep.
All right. So, that is pretty much the arraignment and what happens there. I mean, that pretty much concludes it. Do you guys have anything you want to share on that? I mean, I don't know what else you would say. How did you guys feel when you read this? I mean, were you shocked? I was kind of shocked that Terry...
I was pissed.
My husband's like, damn it.
I was like, they got this upstanding family guy who does nothing but help people, who is a truly nice person. I mean, come on. That guy spit in his face.
I know.
The guy spit in his face.
I know. And
he fell down and he helped him up.
I know. That was...
It's like, come on. Okay, so you got this really nice guy, helpful, caring person, who gets a raw deal, and then man's stupidity gets him killed.
I know.
Like they say, man, only good die young. That is so terrible. I was so upset when that happened.
Yeah, my husband and I were reading it together, because what's been happening is we've been reading it together, and then at work I've been trying to listen to it again to see if I catch any other details to talk over with my husband and or to share with you guys. So hopefully I'm not missing any details so we can talk back and forth. And not only that, so the book is stuck in my head. So if you guys watch it, watch these videos at another time or later or whatever, or somebody visits them later, I can still carry on that conversation with them. Alright, so that is pretty much it during the arraignment. So now the next section we're going into is Footsteps in Cantaloupe. Do you have your cantaloupe? We have ours. No maggots.
Right?
No maggots. So let's have a piece.
I'm liking the cantaloupe.
And then I have honeydew tea with the cantaloupe. It's so good. I think it's by private selection, wasn't it? The honeydew tea? I don't know.
Maybe.
Alright. So let's go into this section. Now it's... Wait, how long is it? Hold on. Maybe 2 days later. And we're over at Ralph's house. And Bill Samuels is coming to visit Ralph at his house. Ralph is sitting in his backyard. And Samuel has come to tell Ralph about the kid, Merlin Cassidy. So anyway, so Samuel's over Ralph's. They're talking. And he's telling about that kid that stole the van. Alright? And then they're also, like, talking. They're telling each other a metaphor and or a story, which I thought was kind of weird. They believed... As Samuel and Ralph are talking, they were, Samuel's like, we believed him to be guilty. That's why we did this.
They're trying to make excuses for themselves to make themselves feel better.
Exactly. And they're talking in metaphors here. They're sharing a metaphor. And then we are up to the girls. And Gracie, I believe, is the one that has the nightmare. And she says that she sees a man in the window. And I thought it was interesting because she describes him. She says his hair was short and black and standing up. His face was lumpy like Play-Doh. He had straws for eyes. So now, do we have a person? Or are we going into something that's supernatural, because that's what Stephen King is known for? But before we go any further, though, I just wanted to go back a little bit, because the cantaloupe is because of the metaphor that Ralph told Samuel, and then the metaphor is the cantaloupe looked fine. It wasn't spongy, the skin was whole, there was no way those bugs could have gotten inside, but somehow they did. And of course, Samuel says, F your cantaloupe, and F your metaphor, I'm going home. He's like, we bought a cantaloupe because it looked like a good cantaloupe, but when we cut it open in front of the whole town, it was full of maggots. No way for them to get in, but there they were. That, if you take away the metaphors, like Jeannie said, Ralph's wife says, she's like, what if the only answer to the riddle of the two Terrys is supernatural? And that's what I was asking at this point, because I'm like, so is Stephen King going that way? Fred Peterson tries to kill himself. And this is the boy's father. He's already lost his wife, he's lost his one son, and now his other son was shot by the detective.
Right.
So now he's just going to end his life. And what I found interesting in this part is he saw a man, as he's got this thing around his neck, the rope around his neck. He flailed for the rope, a drowning man reaching for the surface of the lake in which he has fallen. So at this point, your survival kicks in, and that's what's happening. So large black spores appeared in front of Fred's eyes. They burst into extravagant black toadstools. But before they overwhelmed his sight, he saw a man standing on the patio in the moonlight, one hand resting possessively on the barbecue where Fred would never grill another steak. Or maybe it wasn't a man at all. The features were crude, as if punched into being by a blind sculptor. So kind of like Gracie said, a Play-Doh.
Yeah.
And the eyes were straws. So now we have Fred Peterson has seen this. Alright, so moving on now. He sees the man standing there. We talked about that. We talked about how June Gibson saves him. And then Ralph gets a call from Dr. Edward Bogan. I think it's Bogan. And, Ralph's like, come on, don't keep me in suspense here. Tell me what you got. And he says, no suspense about this, detective. The samples from the branch,
what killed the
when
he
boy,
died.
yeah, match Terry's. Chico, now we move a little bit forward, so we know the DA matches. Now Ralph goes into the evidence room. He gets the key, even though he's not supposed to be there because he's on administrative leave. But he gets the key because he wants to get this piece of paper. He feels like it has some kind of evidence. It was torn off the windshield, off the van. And this paper is in the van. There's just like this little corner missing. And Ralph finds out that it's a restaurant in Dayton. And it was just down from the hotel that Terry and his family were staying in. So, what do y'all think? Do you think Terry's guilty? Do you think he did it? Or do you think he has a clone? Or supernatural? Or his dad? Or maybe a brother he didn't know that he had? What do y'all think? I don't know at this point now. I mean, I think it's too far-fetched for somebody to have set him up now. Because, I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think he was set up? Do you think it's still possible? What I thought was curious is that Sarah, Terry's daughter Sarah, the older one, she talks about how Daddy got cut. I don't know what that cut, if it has any significance or not. If we're talking about supernatural, was something in that orderly that Terry, when he caught the orderly, when the orderly was going to, when he went to slip and fall, and he cut Terry on the wrist? Is that part of some, supernatural or...
Plan to set him up?
Yeah, plan to set him up, or, some kind of weird occult thing. I don't know. But I just thought that was weird that when he caught the orderly cut him, like, with his fingernail, or scratched him with his fingernail. And Marcy's like, oh, it was just a scrape. It wasn't that big a deal. Why are you making such a big deal about it? I'm just curious what Anderson Ralph was up to, why he felt he needed to go talk to Marcy so bad. He said it was about that.
I personally think it's just guilt.
I don't know what it is. I just thought it was odd. I'm like, really? About that scrap of paper? But I don't know. I feel like there's something else that we haven't learned yet. Or we haven't picked up on yet. And I think it's Jack Hoskins is the one that's out at Elfman's barn.
He's the one that's out at the barn.
And I thought this was strange because he's standing there, and I thought, okay, well, he's drunk, that's why. But he's standing there at the rear of the barn. He thinks he sees something. He drops his flashlight. His gun is in the truck or whatever.
His gun's in a safe in a truck.
He's had a couple of vodka, or he's had a vodka shot or whatever. But anyway, he says there was someone behind him, and this was no illusion. He could see the shadow, long and thin. And was that breathing? And he thought, I'm going to die out here. And then that was when Jack was touched, caressed on the back of his neck by a hand as hot as a hot water bottle. He tried to scream and he couldn't. I would be shitting myself.
Right?
I would have been like pissing my pants.
Well, and then that's where it gets kind of weird, because it's like, what would make you freeze like that? You'd have to be pretty scared, and that guy's like a seasoned cop.
Right?
It's like, so you wouldn't think that you would be able to scare him that bad.
And then it goes on to say, the person or the thing stood behind him, its shadow long and thin, touching and caressing. Then both the fingertips and the shadow were gone. So, of course, at this point, he's screaming and hightailing his ass out of there. And he's in the truck talking himself out of it that there was nothing there. And he's saying the throbbing at the nape of his neck also meant nothing. Nothing at all. And dump, dump, dump. To be continued.
How do people just... It didn't mean anything.
I don't know.
How can you do that? You get that afraid, that scared, about pee your pants, and then you go, oh, that was nothing.
Oh, it was nothing. It was just the wind. I would be shitting a blue wrinkle. Alright, so I think what we're going to do, just one section. We're going to do just one section. So the next section in our section 5, when we see you again, is going to be yellow, July 21st to July 22nd. Obviously, the video will be titled that way. And we will see you next time. Bye!